Hello traders, what we're going to be going over today are 5 examples of open interest, and we are going to predict, well, I know the answer to this because I created this quiz, but we are going to predict what happens next, okay? Purpose of this video is not only to give you guys the strategy that I gave last week in a video on open interest, but also give you guys practice so that you can increase your pattern recognition so that when you're analyzing, you can actually make the right trade based on the information that you have. Okay. Number 1, Bitcoin. What's going on here? I'm going to give you guys 10 seconds to analyze the open interest pattern below. You can see price, then you can see open interest in the lower part. That is not volume. This is open interest. Now I'm going to tell you guys the answer in about 5 seconds, but what do you think is going to happen next? Do you think price is going to soar, or do you think price is going to tank? And there is a right answer, because both do not happen. One of them definitely does happen. Okay, so here's what's going on. What we can see is that as price is consolidating, open interest is slowly building. The amount of open interest that's building is quite high. We have about 500 to 600 Bitcoin being opened in positions during this consolidation phase. Then what we see is that people are continuing to open positions even when price falls. So with price reaching these lows, what we know is that if price goes any lower, there's probably going to be a fair amount of stop losses lower, and there's probably going to be a fair amount of liquidations at lower prices. So it's very likely that with all of this open interest buildup and with price creeping lower, price is probably going to tank. And tank it did. It tanked, and you can see open interest falling. Now, this is a kind of classic sucker pattern, a sucker pattern that happens all the time, day in, day out on Bitcoin and on other altcoins too. Basically, you get price flat and you get people, jumping into positions. Then in that flat range, you get people slowly becoming trapped in a range. Basically, imagine like price creeping at lows consistently and not letting anyone get out of their positions without, a loss. You can see at these highs right here. Price just can't go any higher. And then that's a really good sign that price is going to fall and kill everyone, basically. All right, lovely. Part 2. This one, I think, is a little bit easier to distinguish really what's going on. We have an uptrend, but open interest is just falling. First of all, what does this mean? And second of all, what's going to happen next? Would you guys rather short or would you guys rather long in this example with price up 0.21 on Doge? With price increasing and open interest dropping, that basically means that people are losing faith in this trend and that both longs and shorts are exiting. So with both longs and shorts exiting during this uptrend, that's a pretty good sign that this uptrend is going to drop. I mean, the price can't really go much higher. And that's what happens. Look at that. Price goes from about 0.21 down to about 0.185, which is a pretty big drop. I think of 10%? Maybe over 10%. And a large reason why this occurs, in my opinion, is that we have such a large open interest drop that any shorts who were getting hunted or any shorts who were probably going to get liquidated or stopped out probably already did, especially with price rising on high volatility and open interest just continuing to fall. Basically, guys, when you guys are trading on the 1 minute on a major coin like Doge or Bitcoin, you see price going up, open interest falling, and then you see high volatility upward with open interest really falling. Something like this, that's a beautiful opportunity to short, because that's an opportunity where a lot of people are closing out shorts typically. So that is typically when we want to enter short. Something got in my eye. It looks like I'm crying. I'm crying for the blood loss by these shorts who are, sheep for the slaughter. Just trying to think of something clever there. Okay, let's do part 3. Hope you guys are 2 for 2 so far. First one was the answer was down. Second one, the answer was down. Third one, what's going to happen? Let's see. So first of all, this is dot perp, but I want you guys to focus on just how much open interest has increased during the 10th. What does this mean? And what does this mean in context to where price is now at 14.913? Is price likely going to treat that as resistance, or is price likely going to just soar right past it? There are 2 reasons why price either tanks or rises. What are those 2 reasons? Okay, the answer is price is going to absolutely tank, and price does tank here again. The two reasons why price tanks is, first of all, I want you guys to watch what happens when price leaves this range. This is super important. So when I say range, I mean below this low of 15. When price goes below 15, we don't see a large open interest drop. What does that mean? That basically means that people are holding on to their positions and they are not exiting. That's a sign of many trap traders at higher prices, which is true, as you can see up here. That's reason one why price is just very likely to fall from here. You just don't really see many people like dropping out of positions, so more carnage to come. Second reason, with such a large open interest increase on the 10th, anyone who had entered long on DOT here is likely trapped. Now the amount that people did this was open interest in DOT went from 2.6 mil to about 3.3 mil. So that's about 700,000 DOT being, longed and shorted. Now, what that also means in, US dollar terms, well, 700,000 times the price here of 15 is like what? Mental math, fun. At least $10 million. So I'd say like $10 to $15 million worth of longs are probably trapped here. Now, what does that mean in this context? That means that it's going to be very difficult for price to go any higher than about 16. And why is that? Well, when you get so much money being poured into at these prices right here that I highlighted, what ends up happening is after price goes down, a lot of those guys want to get out of their positions at break even or at slight profit. And if everyone wants to do something, then no one can, or only the first can. So when price tries to creep back up, watch what happens. At about 15.5, 15.6, price can't go any higher. Price can't go any higher just because too many people are trapped there. So buy. Now what we see is price just tanks. And this is probably, you can look back on the 17th, but this was a very good time to buy because look at just how much open interest had dropped. So there's a lot to learn from this picture, from trap traders in the blue because open interest increase, from the inability for price to rise any higher because they're trapped, then the inability for price to go any higher from here because these guys are still trapped. Support becomes resistance, and then how price just kind of falls off, and then this becomes very bullish because we get so many people dropping out of the trend. It's a really good example. Here's one that I think should be relatively simple. I say that now, but I do have 20/20 hindsight, and you guys don't. But see if you guys can predict. Do you think price is going to keep rising, or do you think price is just going to tank like a rock? What's your bet? And if you think that question's too easy, then also interpret what's going on during this uptrend. I'll give the answer in 5 seconds. This is a healthy uptrend so far, but yes, price does tank like a rock at the very end at about 0.82. What happens is there's a steady rise in open interest, as you can see, as price continues to go higher. But then you get this large drop in open interest, which is basically indicating that a lot of shorts and longs are exiting. If a lot of shorts are exiting, then really the fuel for the uptrend fire is kind of being extinguished because a lot of times trends are built on the losses of other traders. So let's say that you have a bunch of trap shorts. Well, it's going to be easy for price to go higher and higher and higher because you're burning those shorts and those shorts have to buy back. Kind of like what happened with AMC and with GME earlier this year. But what we see here is that a fair amount of people just dropped out of the trend, and that's what happens when open interest tanks at a high. Price falls. Final example. I'm rooting for you guys on this one. I think this is the easiest one so far, even though I keep saying that, to be honest. This one's pretty straightforward, but it's on the hourly. The other examples were on a shorter time frame. This is on a much longer time frame on Bitcoin. What do you think happens next? And my very simple question to you guys is, would you rather enter long or enter short right there at the price of $36,000? And one more part of that question. Would you rather enter long or short? And let's say you're only holding for 1 to 2 days. What do you want to do? Do you want to buy or do you want to sell? The answer is you want to buy. What's happening here is this is a really strong downtrend, incredibly strong downtrend. Whenever guys, you see a slow downtrend like this that we see, right here, where price is slowly falling but open interest is increasing, what that means is that more and more traders are entering and more traders are getting trapped as price slowly falls. It's such a good time to short. Would have been to short or buy puts at these higher prices. Whenever you see a slow downtrend with open interest increasing, it's just a beauty to short. Now, this is not where you want to short because open interest just tanked, and the amount of Bitcoin that dropped out of these futures positions is very high. We went from an open interest high of about 30,000 Bitcoin. Now it's below 24. So 30,000 Bitcoin to 23,000 Bitcoin is a 7,000 Bitcoin drop in open interest, meaning that 7,000 Bitcoin shorts and 7,000 Bitcoin held in longs are gone, are finished. They close out their positions or reduced. And because of that, this is a pretty good sign that price is going to rise. There's a lot you can learn from this one, but I think that this one is relatively more simple, and you will be spotting this basically all the time when you analyze open interest. Steady open interest increase, price slowly falling, wait for the high volatility of price to just tank, and then everyone panics and everyone says Bitcoin's dead. Massive open interest drop, and then you buy when open interest massively drops. So a lot to learn from this one, believe me. And then you can see price goes up a little higher, but I don't actually show the next thing on this slide, but what do you think price does from here? Do you think price increases or decreases? Price actually ended up decreasing after this picture. I can see that there's just not much open interest action. Not many people are opening positions. As you can see, and open interest is really, really low, even though price has really risen. That's not a good sign. That's a sign that this is a fool's trend, and price did go down after this. All right, live example, or semi-live at least. What's going on here? I will scroll forward, but what do you think is going to happen next? You guys a little bit of more context. I'll tell you this, we have a massive open interest increase on the 5-minute. But more specifically, I want you guys to focus on one thing, and I think I can give you guys a pretty big hint on that. What's this, and what does it mean? Well, what it is, well, answer it yourself or pause the video. Open interest is increasing massively in a range up here, and open interest did not decrease after price fell. What does that mean? That means that basically anyone up here is trapped. Because if they weren't trapped, we would see open interest fall, but open interest did not fall. Open interest stayed put, meaning that price is going to have a very hard time breaking this level. And look at that. Price wasn't able to break the level. Do you guys see why now? Because open interest increased here, trap traders are here, people just refuse to close out their positions, and then the very second they did begin to close out their positions, uptrend begins. This is how price action in open interest can show you how the market likes to screw people over. It screwed both kinds of people over. The kinds of guys who were, and girls and bots, who were trapped up here, they got screwed over because, they're trapped in their position. No one wants to be trapped in a losing position. And then the people who close out here had the worst pain of all because they sold the bottom. Any long who had sold here lost a fair amount of money. We can see open interest fell. But how could we have made money? Well, here's what you do. Plenty of ways. First way is, as weird as it seems, with open interest continuing to increase on this very volatile price drop, that's a great sign to short, to momentum short, with this breakdown in price. This is just looking so bearish that it's going to be very difficult for price to go higher. And if you had shorted here, you would have had a lot, to play with very quickly. Second example of what to do, obviously buying here because open interest drop with price dropping rapidly is pretty good. Remember, price dropping with open interest increasing is bearish. Price dropping with open interest decreasing is typically bullish, but typically. And then the final example of where you could potentially take a short is right here, because we have so much resistance from all these people who are trapped up here that these prices are it's going to be hard for price to go any higher. So good time to buy a put or to short. And then this is an example of open interest dropping, but price not actually rising. Price just like stopping and consolidating. So price won't always just, reverse on an open interest fall, but it tends to do that. So that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys learned a lot from not just me talking about how open interest works, but also talking about, examples of open interest. There's a little bonus. I can even go to current, put this on 1 minute, and go take a look and kind of look in context what's happening here. We can see a pretty good open interest increase, which is a very good sign of an uptrend. So I wouldn't be too shocked for price to go higher. That's my price prediction for now. I wouldn't be too shocked for price to go higher, but if we see price dropping and open interest increases or stays flat, that's a very bad sign. That's a sign that the downtrend's probably going to happen. But if we see any price movement upward with just kind of flat open interest or with open interest rising, then that's probably a sign of an uptrend. So basically what I'm saying here is that I'm leaning bullish. I believe that price will probably rise in the short term. But if you see price begin to fall with open interest increase, be scared, because that's probably going to be a downtrend. And if you see price begin to increase with open interest increasing, that's probably a pretty good sign of an uptrend. So that's going to do it for this video, and happy trading. Hope you learned something.